Hi, and welcome to the Critique of Constructivism. If you've gone through this conference in the recommended order, you'll have already looked at the philosophy and how the applications are built on it. This section presents some challenges to constructivism. First, some cracks in the philosophical foundation, then how these cracks weaken the integrity of the structure. There are references at the end for those of you who want to dig deeper. In the first section of this conference, we looked at two strands of constructivism, cognitive and social. You could combine these ideas to arrive at an understanding of individual learners on one side, the culture on the other, and how they overlap in the middle. You could stop there, but radical constructivists, like Ernst von Glasersfeld, want to take constructivism further. They say that all knowledge is a human construction, that each one of us creates the universe in our head, that the universes in our heads are the only ones that matter, and that there is no necessary overlap between my universe and yours. Through a radical constructivist lens, a connection between our own personal knowledge and an objective reality is both irrelevant and impossible. Von Glasersfeld tells us that knowledge is never, and can never be, a representation of the real world. Instead, it is the collection of conceptual structures that turn out to be aligned, or as I would say, viable, within the knowing subject's range of experiences. If you think about it, constructivism is really about common sense. Each individual must use their own intuition and past experiences to develop theories about the world that help make sense of their current experiences. This is persuasive, and common sense is a good place to start. But it can only take you so far. Most of us know that common sense reasoning is not a reliable way to understand the world, and that humans aren't very good at it anyway. Reasoning becomes more powerful and less prone to error when it is supplemented with the intellectual tools that humans have developed over the centuries. It's unlikely a novice learner would arrive at any of these tools independently, meaning that knowledge of them must be transferred from mentor to student, in opposition to a radical constructivist view of knowledge. Additionally, radical constructivism only allows us to know objects through our experiences, as in our sensory experience, I know a car when I see one, and our personal experience, as in I know how to drive a car. However, that is the limit of constructivist epistemology. Our experiences don't tell us how something works or why it works, and for radical constructivists, having someone explain it to you doesn't count as knowledge. You could say, I know how to put gas in my car, but you wouldn't necessarily say that you know why that makes your car go. Your experience pumping gas does not give you insight into the combustion of hydrocarbons. Finally, even if you did know how a car worked, you wouldn't be able to explain it to other people who didn't have your personal experience, because according to radical constructivists, knowledge can't be transmitted through language. So, do you have to reinvent the internal combustion engine in order to understand it? Does it really make sense to say that we can't know about phenomena like internal combustion, spiral galaxies, plate tectonics, bacteria, genes, electrons, or gravity? If our understanding of the connection between washing our hands and getting sick isn't knowledge, what is it? The germ theory of disease is not something an individual would arrive at independently, just through their experience. This second section looks at two distinct but related critiques of applied constructivism, both of which follow from constructivist epistemology's relationship to the truth. First, when discovery learning is employed, there is the potential for novice learners to uncritically digest incorrect information. And second, the results of pure discovery learning are increasingly coming under question. In a paper from 2013, Mughaloglou argues that the emphasis on viability of ideas, combined with the socially mediated nature of knowledge assumed in constructivism, creates a welcoming environment for fake facts. That is, the assumption that the truth will prevail, while always dubious, is especially so in constructivist classrooms. This is because, by viewing all knowledge, even scientific knowledge, as subjective, proponents of radical constructivism in the classroom are philosophically unable to differentiate between science and pseudoscience. Similarly, having people work together under the assumption that social learning is good can create peer pressure to fit in and conform rather than question the group. Mughaloğlu's article is about the growing acceptance of creationism amongst teachers in Turkey, but it has implications anywhere constructivist pedagogy is used. For example, the work of Sugata Mitra has focused on the idea that kids can teach themselves, by which he means that children don't need teachers to learn, only computers with an internet connection. Mitra's results have not been independently confirmed, but the experience of Mughaloğlu and teacher training in Turkey forces us to ask ourselves, if university-educated adults aren't able to distinguish between fact and fantasy, how could unguided children be expected to do so? This leads to another criticism of radical constructivist practice: the ineffectiveness of pure discovery learning. Mayer, writing in 2004, identifies 3 distinct periods in American education in which pure discovery learning was tried and studied, and compares the results to contemporaneous classes that combine discovery with instruction. In every case, the pure discovery learners underperformed the students who also received instruction. To Mayer, this indicates that the model of minimal guidance is not viable. Similarly, in 2006, Kirshner, Sweller, and Clark published an article entitled "Why Minimal Guidance During Instruction Does Not Work," an analysis of the failure of constructivist, discovery, problem-based, experiential, and inquiry-based teaching. In it, they argued that all of the empirical evidence, combined with current research into human cognition, demonstrates that unguided or minimally guided instruction is inferior to guided learning. The only exception to this is for older or more expert learners who already have enough experience to provide themselves with internal guidance. The central argument of this article is that minimal guidance ignores the difference between long-term and working memory. The goal of learning is to transfer information from our working to our long-term memory. But, the authors argue, students who are surveying questions for potentially relevant information or trying to comprehend what they're supposed to do have already filled their working memories and have little cognitive capacity left to learn. None of these critiques are conclusive, and none of them address all aspects of constructivist thinking and teaching, but they do suggest a need for further study and for caution.